I think I've actually lifted it. No, I haven't. That is what's known as the radar cross-sectional area. This is a concept of an equivalent sphere. And then it's normalised against the wavelength. So head on, you get a very strong return, and then you get these lobes as you move through the angle. But there's always, the strongest lobe is always going off angle incidence equals angle of reflection. In fact, last 2 weeks ago, I actually saw somebody who actually done the full Maxwell equations calculation of it. He didn't tell me how long the calculation took, but it moved fairly rapidly on the film he got. It also happens in light, this same sort of effect. There's a physics book, Nelson and Parker, called Physics of a very long time ago. If you waited eternity, if you download it, you can get it down on the web. But in a section where it's talking about things like Fresnel diffraction, it talks about reflections at metal surfaces with light. It says eddy currents are produced, in other words, induced currents by the electric field. And really this is what's going on here. On that plate we've got a current induced, and then if we look at the pattern, we do see a sort of a tilted sin x over x sort of shape, where most of the energy is going off at an angle. You don't see it with light because obviously the wavelength is so very much small that those side lobes are crammed in very close. So I say, being a microwave engineer amongst other things, one tends to think it is re-radiation than simple reflection. You'll get the same effect with dielectrics because you've got a change in wave impedance, and energy will come back rather than transmitted into the medium that you're going into. I used to work with an Irish sergeant and used to say that as we walked past the glass windows on the side of the building at Arborfield, I said, I mentioned this and he thought this was marvellous. He says, but you can see it, We thought this was right. Now, some of the backscattering effects that you get, I'm not entirely certain where I got this particular diagram from. There are some dubious elements about it. It just really show this angle of incidence equals angle of reflection business. You will get further scattering at rough surfaces here. Obviously anything that's head on like that, you get a very strong reflection from there. You do get things like double bounce scattering, which you don't notice so much in light, and volume scattering from trees. In fact, it was interesting to see an earlier slide where we got a very, very strong response from a tree, which in the optical picture you can more or less make it out against the green background. So that's an interesting point on that. So no, quite. You do also tend to get strong reflections from corners and edges. So these diagrams are not desperately good on that. Okay, now this is what synthetic aperture radar is. Sorry, let me go back. Something's on that tip, that's it. When are we? F5. There we go. What are we? Stop trying to be clever. What we have here is an aircraft, as we see, flying in that direction. It has an antenna with a broad beam athwart the direction of flight, but narrow in the direction of flight. So, in fact, we've got two separate beams, one to port and one to starboard. So, what happens when we get is a succession of strips, and each strip being equivalent to the strip of a Fresnel lens. The snag is that the slant range varies across the beam. In other words, the path length is varying, and in fact you get a sort of a wavefront. It's there and moves across. So there is somewhere in your system you'll have to correct the range. Now the second one is that Doppler also varies in the direction of flight, because you get a resolve component of your signal hitting the ground, and as I say, it's both a blessing and a curse. The blessing of it is you can actually use it as information to sharpen the beam in the direction in which you're flying. In other words, particular areas will see a certain change in Doppler associated with them as the thing flies forward, and you can put processing on to improve the resolution in the direction of flight. Okay, this is very much a simplified system at the front end. If you go out and look on the web and try and find anything about on synthetic aperture radar, there's something like 216 pages from the European Space Agency, which don't actually help you a lot. And the second one, if you try and look at block diagrams, which I did, again, things have terrifically confused you, which again don't help you a lot. But the general idea is this is simplified. The whole thing is coherent. MFG, master frequency generator, or microwave frequency generator. And we produce a low frequency signal out of here, maybe 220 megs, 300 megahertz, something like that. We feed that into an amplifier, into a mixer. That mixes with the microwave signal, and we filter out the sum of the two signals, and that's what we transmit and we pulse. Pass it through a gadget there which directs the energy out to the aerial, and I've shown a sort of flat plate aerial. What comes back through a transmit-receive cell, protect the front end of our receiver, bandpass filter, make sure we just get the signal, not the noise. Low noise amplifier, mix it down to back to 300 megs or thereabouts, like Doppler and whatever on. Pass it through two more mixers using the original signal we fed in, and we'll get in phase and quadrature signals through analog to digital converters, and then through FFT, which will complete the lensing operation. What happens after that is up to you. You're now down to numbers, and it's whatever. I've got a copy of Doodle, certainly you all have much the same techniques you use, so there's no great point in talking about that. So let's have a look at some platforms.
5 minutes.
Oh, okay, we'll go fast. Terasar, let's just skip then. Move on to this one. This is FSAR, various frequency bands. These low frequency ones are very good for looking through ice and snow, and the higher ones, you get better resolution the higher you go up in frequency. Certainly the Danes up in Iceland go and look at glaciers and things like that using these kind of radars. Okay, now Terasar, we'll look at this one quickly. It's got three modes. One is a scanning mode, where you build up a series of strips, series of pulses, and you scan them across an electronically steerable antenna. A strip map mode, where you don't scan it across. And the third is a spotlight mode, where you concentrate on one particular point. Right. And electronically steerable, phase shifters, just change the phasing of the individual elements, and that will change the direction at which we transmit. Come on. Oh, I've got fat finger trouble here. Something's locked. Now. Right. Let's go back. Let's go this out. Yeah, out of that. Sorry, people. Oh, sorry, I've got fat finger trouble. I'll skip that. We'll have a look at some pictures. This is something taken from Terasar. Sydney Harbour is what we can see. Now, what they've done something fairly interesting here. And before I explain what that is, I'll explain what it is. Pictures taken 3 days, and notice the colours red, green, and blue. And this is quite a neat way of looking at change, because white areas, those three colours obviously fuse to give you white, but we can see there's things like ships appearing there, another one in there. We're also getting a very strong reflection off the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Again, there's lots of corner reflectors in there, and that's what produces that strong one. We've also got this bar across here, which seems to be a characteristic of bridges. This seems to be a double bounce from the deck of the bridge down onto the sea surface and back again. Have a look at another one. Right, this is Doppler as a curse. There's a railway line. Where's our, oh, there's our railway line up there. But there's the train. It's moved sideways in the processing. This is a characteristic because it can't really, the system can't really tell that things moving forward. All the processing, the FFT, is essentially on the sideways looking signal. So that is one, that if you like is the curse of it, or the snag of it. Here's an interesting one. This is Montserrat volcano. 9th of October, pictures taken, which is red. Eruption 29th of July, 1st of August, a few days later, there's the green, and again the 12th of August, another picture on another pass. And what you can see with the green, you can see the effect of the eruption. So this is quite a neat way of visually showing changes. So the sort of thing, you don't really need a radar to do that, because you can do a very similar thing with the images we've seen already. And that's in okay. Again, where we get the broad sideways beam, tend to use aerials like that, as I'll skip and we'll look at the pictures more than anything, probably more interested in the technicalities. This is strip map mode, using an antenna like I've shown, and what's been done is this image here has been overlaid by the Ordnance Survey map. It's been actually taken to a place called Swinnerton in North Staffordshire, whereas this was done some years ago from one of these things, one of these UAVs, and we see the little yellow vehicles highlighted there, they're in there. One's blown up yet again, up in the top corner. You can see some detail, different colours, depending on the reflections. And then what the thing actually is, I think it was a Zilka, a Czech anti-aircraft weapon made under licence by the Russians. Coming to the last two. Here's a ship from Norway, great interest in ships in Oslo Harbour. What you tend to get out of this, what we seem to be getting on the ship, is the edges. Right, so we seem to be able to see those lines there, the edges there, again corner reflectors. These seem to be, the lines along there seem to be windows or ports along there. Again, you've got corner reflectors. One would have to go into sort of a join the dots exercise to get the shape of the ship. And this is the last of them. These are three ships again in the harbour. And what you can pick out again from the windows is that seems to be the walkway on top of the building. You can see the gangways down to the ships in some cases, the three ships there. It's probably Stena Line ones that seem to be popular. And then along the front of the building again there's windows, and these seem to be what you get a reflection of there, or possibly just as a corner reflector. So there we are, we went fairly fast.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Obviously perfectly understood.
It seemed that if you were developing image analysis algorithms for those images,
sorry, if I was not,
if you were applying computer vision techniques or image analysis algorithms to those images,
yeah,
it could be quite a challenge. I mean, they were visually eyeballed, were they?
Those were visually eyeballed. So my interest is one of them, particularly with the Italians, with Pisa, is to do exercises and joining up the dots.
Yeah.
They've got some rather worse images.
Yeah.
But one of the things is we've got three images. I'm going to put them in three.